and trays?
Yes'm. I had a bit of a struggle though, but it's all right.
And you filled the little trays up again with water?
Yes'm.
Very good, Edith. You are making giant strides.
Yes'm.
Madam Arconti, Mrs. Bradman and I will have our coffee in here after dinner. Mr. Kahneman and Dr. Bradman will have theirs in the dining room. Is that quite clear?
Yes'm.
And when you are serving dinner, Edith, try to remember to do it calmly and methodically.
Yes'm.
As you are not in the Navy, it is not necessary to do everything at the double.
Very good.
Now go and get the ice.
Yes'm.
Not a run, Edith.
Yes'm.
No sign of the advancing hordes?
Not yet.
No ice?
It's coming. I've been trying to discourage Edith from being quite so fleet of foot. You mustn't mind if everything's a little slow motion tonight.
I should welcome it. The last few days have been extremely agitating. What do you suppose induced Agnes to leave us and go and get married like that?
The reason was becoming increasingly obvious, dear.
Yes, but in these days, nobody thinks of that sort of thing. She could have easily popped into the cottage hospital, had it, and popped out again.
Her social life would have been seriously undermined.
We must keep Edith in the house warm.
That's right, Edith. Put it down on the table.
Yes, sir.
I left my glasses on the dressing table, Edith. Would you get them for me?
Yes, sir.
There now!
Oh, you took her by surprise.
Dry martini, I think, don't you?
Yes, darling. I expect Madame Arcadi will want something sweeter.
We'll have this one for ourselves, anyhow.
Oh, dear.
What's the matter?
I have a feeling this evening is going to be awful.
It'll probably be funny, but not awful.
Oh, you must promise not to catch my eye. If I giggle, and I am very likely to, it will ruin everything.
You mustn't. You must be dead serious and, if possible, a little intense. We don't want to hurt the old girl's feelings, however funny she is.
But why the Bradmans, darling? He's as skeptical as we are. He'll probably say the most dreadful things.
I've warned him. We must have more than 3 people, and we couldn't have the vicar and his wife because A, they're dreary, and B, they probably wouldn't have minded at all. It had to be the Bradmans. Ooh, thank you, Edith. There now.
Yes, sir.
We might make her walk about with a book on her head like they do in deportment lessons. Here, try this.
Lovely, dry as a bone.
To the Unseen.
I must say, that is a wonderful title.
Do you remember how I got the idea for The Light Goes Out?
Suddenly seeing that haggard, rattled woman at the Hotel Biarritz, of course I remember we stayed up half the night talking about her.
I wonder who she was. She came in very handy.
And if she ever knew. I mean, never recognized that description of herself. Poor thing. It is to her, anyhow.
Oh, have another?
Darling, it's most awfully strong.
Never mind.
Do you tell Vera to be a help to you when you, thinking things out, I mean?
Every now and then, when she concentrated, but she didn't concentrate very often.
I do wish I'd known her.
I wonder if you would have liked her.
Yes, I'm sure I should have liked her. As you talk of her, she sounds enchanting. Yes, I'm sure I should have liked her because, you know, I have never for an instant felt in the least jealous of her. That's a good sign.
Poor little Vera.
Does it still hurt when you think of her?
No, not really. Sometimes I wish it did. I feel rather guilty.
I wonder if I died before you'd grown tired of me, if you forget me so soon.
What a horrible thing to say.
No, I think it's interesting.
Well, to begin with, I haven't forgotten it, Vera. I remember it very distinctly indeed. I remember how fascinating she was and how maddening. I remember how badly she played all games and how cross she got when she didn't win. I remember her gay charm when she achieved her own way over something, and her extreme acidity when she didn't. I remember her physical attractiveness, which was tremendous, and her spiritual integrity, which was nil.
You can't remember something that was nil.
I remember how morally untidy she was.
Was she more physically attractive than I am?
That's a very tiresome question, darling, and fully deserves the wrong answer.
You really are very sweet. And a little naive, too.
How so?
Because you think I'd mind about her being more physically attractive than I am.
I would think that any woman would mind if it were true, Mama. Or perhaps I'm a little old-fashioned in my view of the female psychology.
Not old-fashioned, darling, just a bit didactic.
How so?
It's didactic to attribute to one type the defects of another type. For instance, because you know perfectly well that Elvira would mind terribly if you found another woman more attractive than she, doesn't necessarily follow that I should. Elvira was a more physical person than I am, I'm certain of that. It's all a question of degree.
I love you, my love.
I know you do, but not the wildest stretch of imagination could describe it as the first fine, careless rapture.
Would you like it to be?
Good God, no.
Isn't that a shade too vehement?
We're neither of us adolescent, Charles, and neither of us have led exactly prim lives. We've both been married before. Careless rapture at this stage would be incongruous and embarrassing.
Well, I hope I haven't been in any way a disappointment, darling.
Don't be so idiotic.
After all, your first husband was a great deal older than you, wasn't he? I'd hate to think that you had missed out all along the line.
There are moments, Charles, when you go too far.
Sorry, darling.
As far as waspish female psychology goes, there's a rather strong vein of it in you.
I've heard that said about Julius Caesar.
Julius Caesar is neither here nor there.
You may be, for all we know. We'll ask Madame McCarthy when she gets here.
You are awfully irritating when you're determined to be witty at all costs, almost supercilious.
That's exactly what Elvira used to say.
I'm not at all surprised. I never imagined, physically triumphant as she was, that she was entirely lacking in perception.
Well, she had a great talent for living. It's a pity she died so young.
Poor Elvira.
That remark is getting monotonous.
Well, poor Charles, then.
That's better.
And later on, poor Ruth, I expect.
You have no faith, Ruth. I really think you should try to have a little faith.
I shall strain every nerve.
Life without faith is an arid business.
How beautifully you put things, dear.
I aim to please.
I wonder if I died, how long it would be before you married again?
You're not going to die. You're not the dying sort.
Neither was Elvira.
Oh, yes, she was. Now that I look back on it, she had a certain ethereal, not quite of this world quality about her. Nobody can say that you were even remotely ethereal.
Nonsense. She was of the earth, earthy.
Well, she is now, anyhow.
Charles, you know that is the type of remark that shocks people.
It's discouraging to think that how many people are shocked by honesty and so few by deceit.
Write that down, you might forget it.
You underrate me.
Anyhow, it's a question of bad taste more than honesty.
I was devoted to Elvira. We were married for 5 years. She died. I loved her very much. I miss her. That was 7 years ago. I have now, with your help, my love, risen above the whole thing.
Admirable. But if tragedy should darken our lives, I still say with prophetic foreboding, poor Ruth.
Ooh, that'll probably be the bride news.
Well, it might be Madame Arcadi.
No, she'll come on her bicycle. She always goes everywhere on a bicycle.
It really is very spirited of the old girl.
Shall I get it, or shall we let Edith have her fling?
Wait a minute, let's see what happens.
Perhaps she didn't hear.
Well, she's probably on one knee in the pre-sprinting position, waiting for Cook to open the kitchen door.
There now!
Yes, sir.
We're not late, are we? I only got back from the hospital a half hour ago.
Of course not. Madame McCarthy hasn't arrived yet.
That must have been her we passed coming down the hill. I said I thought it was.
Then she won't be long. I'm so glad you were able to come.
Oh, we've been looking forward to it. I feel really quite excited.
I
You know-
guarantee you that it'll be good. I made her promise.
There wasn't any need. I'm absolutely thrilled. I've only seen Madame Arcadi 2 or 3 times in the village. I mean, I've never seen her do anything at all peculiar, if you know what I mean.
Dry martini?
Oh, by all means.
You know, she certainly is a strange woman. It was only a chance remark of the vicar's upon seeing her upon the knoll of Midsummer's Eve, dressed in sort of Indian robes, that I realized that she was psychic at all. Then I began to make inquiries. Apparently, she's been a professional in London for years.
It's funny, isn't it? I mean, anybody doing it as a profession.
I believe it's quite lucrative.
Do you believe in it, Mrs. Condiment? Do you think there's anything really genuine about it at all?
I'm afraid not, but I do think it's interesting how easily people allow themselves to be deceived.
But she must believe it herself, mustn't she? Or is the whole business a fake?
I suspect the worst, a real professional charlatan. That's what I'm hoping for anyhow. The main character I'm planning for my book is a complete imposter. It's one of the main important factors to the whole story.
What exactly are you hoping to get from her?
Jargon, principally, a few tricks of the trade.
Have you ever attended to her doctor professionally, I mean?
Oh, yes, she had influenza in January. She's only been here just over a year, you know. Ha! I must say she was singularly unpsychic then. I always understood that she was an authoress.
Oh, yes. We originally met as colleagues at one of Miss Wilmot's Sunday evenings in Sandgate.
What sort of books does she write?
Two sorts. Rather whimsical children's stories about enchanted woods filled with highly conventional flora and fauna, and enthusiastic biographies of minor royalties. Very sentimental, reverent, and extremely funny.
Oh, here she is.
She knows, doesn't she, about tonight? You're not going to spring it on her.
Oh, of course. It was all arranged last week. I told her how profoundly interested I was in anything dealing with the occult, and she blossomed like a rose.
I really feel quite nervous, as though I were going to make a speech.
Maybe you should greet her, dear.
I've left my pipe up against that little bush. It'll be perfectly all right as long as no one touches it.
Madam Arcadi!
Oh, Madam Arcadi, it's so nice of you to come all this way.
My dear Madam Arcadi.
I'm afraid I'm rather late, but I had a sudden presentiment that I was going to have a puncture, and so I went back to fetch my pump, and then of course I didn't have a puncture at all.
Perhaps you will on the way home.
Yeah. Dr. Bradman, the man with the gentle hands.
Delighted to see you looking so well. This is my wife.
Oh yes, we're old friends. We meet coming in and out of shops.
Would you like a cocktail?
If it's a dry martini, yes. If it's a concoction, no. Experience has taught me not to be very weary of concoctions.
A dry martini it is.
How delicious. Oh, it was wonderful cycling through the woods this evening. I was deafened with bird song.
Oh, it's been lovely all day.
Ah, but the evening's the time. Mark my words. Thank you. Cheers. Cheers.
Don't you find it tiring bicycling everywhere?
On the contrary, it stimulates me. I was getting far too sedentary in London. That horrid little flat with the dim lights. They had to be dim, you know. The clients expected.
I must say, I find bicycling very exhausting.
A steady rhythm. That's what counts. Once you get the knack of it, you need never look back. On you get and away you go.
But the hills, Madam Arcadi, pushing up those awful hills.
Just knack again. Down with your head, up with your heart, and you're up over the top in a flash, skidding down the other side like a dragonfly. This is the best dry martini I've had for years.
Have another?
Certainly. You're a very clever man. Anyone can write books, but it takes a true artist to make a dry martini dry enough.
Are you writing anything nowadays, Madam Arcadi?
Every morning, 7 to 1, like clockwork.
Is it a novel or a memoir?
A children's book.
Oh.
I have to finish it by the end of October to catch the Christmas sales. It's mostly about small little animals. The hero is a boss beetle. Moss beetle. I had to give up my memoir on Princess Pagliatani because she died in April. I talked to her about it the other day, and she implored me to go on, but I really hadn't the heart.
You talked to her about it the other day?
Yes, through my control, of course. She sounded very irritable.
It's funny, isn't it, to think of people in the spirit world being irritable. I mean, one can hardly imagine it, can one?
We have no reliable guarantee that the afterlife will be any less exasperating as this one, have we?
Oh, Mr. Condiment, how can you?
Dinner is served, ma'am!
Thank you, Edith. Shall we?
And then red meat, I hope.
Oh, there's meat, but I don't think it will be very red. Would you rather have an egg or something?
It is, thank you. It's just that I make it a rule never to eat red meat before I work. It sometimes has an odd effect.
What sort of effect?
Nothing of the least importance. It isn't, if it isn't very red, it won't matter much. Anyhow, we'll risk it.
Come along, Mrs. Bradman. Madam Arcati, you are on Charles's right. Do you always have a child under control?
Oh, yes. They're generally the best. Some mediums prefer mystics, of course, but I've always found them personally unreliable.
In what way unreliable?
For one thing, they're frightfully lazy. And also, when faced with any sort of difficulty, they're rather apt to go off into their own tribal language, which is naturally unintelligible. That generally spoils everything and wastes a great deal of time. No, children are undoubtedly the best, particularly when they get to know you and understand your ways. Daphne's worked with me for years.
And she goes on being a child. I mean, she shows no sign of growing any older.
Time values on the other side are utterly different from ours.
When did you first discover that you had these extraordinary powers?
When I was quite tiny. My mother was a medium before me, you know, and so had every opportunity of starting on the ground floor, as one might say. I had my first trance when I was 4 years old, and my first ectoplasmic manifestation when I was 5 and a half. Oh, what an excellent day that was! I shall never forget it. Of course, the manifestation itself was quite small and of short duration, but for a child of my tender years, it was most gratifying.
Your mother must have been so pleased.
Oh, she was.
Can you foretell the future?
Oh, I most certainly do not. I disapprove of fortune tellers most strongly.
Oh, really? Why?
Too much guesswork and fate mixed up with it. Even when the gift is genuine, and it only very occasionally is, you can't count on it.
Why not?
Time again! Time is the reef upon which all frail mystic ships are wrecked.
You mean because it has not yet been proven that the past and the present and the future are not one and the same thing?
I long ago came to the conclusion that nothing can definitely be proven about anything.
Oh, how very wise. I want you to leave the dining room just as it is for tonight. Edith, you can clear the table in the morning. Yes, and we don't want to be disturbed for the next hour or so for any reason whatsoever. Is that clear? Yes. And if anyone should telephone, just tell them we are out and take a message.
Unless it's an urgent call for George.
Unless it's an urgent call for Dr. Bradman. Listen, there's not likely to be one, is there?
No, I don't think so.
If once I'm off, it won't matter much. But a disturbance in the preliminary stages can be disastrous.
I wish the men would hurry up. I am terribly excited.
Please don't be. He makes everything much, much more difficult.
The time is drawing near.
Who knows? Time may be receding.
How very true.
I hope you feel in the mood, Madam Arcadi.
It isn't a question of mood, Dr. Bradman. It's a question of concentration.
Please forgive us being impatient. We can perfectly easily wait, though, if you're not quite ready to start.
No nonsense, my dear. I'm absolutely ready. Hi-ho, to work we go.
Is there anything you'd like us to do?
Do?
Hold hands or anything.
Oh, all in good time. But first, a few deep breaths of fresh air. Oh, you can talk if you wish. You won't disturb me in the least.
Oh, dear.
Excellent dinner, Dolly, and I want to congratulate you.
Oh, the mousse wasn't quite right.
It looked a bit hysterical, but it tasted delicious.
That cuckoo sounds angry.
I beg your pardon.
I said that cuckoo sounds angry. Listen.
How can you tell?
Timbra. No moon. That's as well, I think. There's a mist rising from the marshes. There's no need for me to light my bicycle lamp, is there? I mean, no one's likely to fall over it.
Oh, no, we're not expecting anyone else.
Good night, you foolish bird!
Yes, we thought that one would do.
I think the one with the drinks on it would be much better.
All right.
Change over.
You told Edith we didn't want to be disturbed?
Yes, darling.
This is the moment I hate most.
Are you nervous?
Yes. When I was a girl, I used to always get sick.
Oh, how fortunate that you outgrew it.
Little Tommy Tucker sings for his supper. What shall he have but brown bread and butter? Oh, I despise that. It doesn't rhyme at all. But Daphne loves it.
Who's Daphne?
Daphne is Madame Arcadi's control. She's a little girl.
Oh, I see. Yes, of
How old
course.
is she?
Rising 7 when she died.
And when was that?
February the 6th, 1884.
Poor little thing.
She must be rather long in the tooth by now, I should think.
You should think, Dr. Bradman, but I fear you didn't. At least not profoundly enough.
Do be quiet, George. We'll put Madame Arcadi off.
Don't worry, my dear. I'm quite used to skeptics. They're generally the most vulnerable and receptive in the long run.
Ooh, you'd better take that warning to heart, Dr. Bradman.
Please forgive me, Madame Arcadi. I can assure you I'm most deeply interested.
It's of no consequence. Now, will you all sit round the table and place your hands downward on it?
Come, Mrs. Bradman.
What about the lights?
Hey, all in good time, Mr. Condamine. Sit down, please. Fingers should be touching. Yes, that's right. Now, I presume that's a gramophone, Mr. Condamine?
Yes, it's an electric one. Would you like me to start it?
I can manage. Stay right where you are. Now, let me see. What have we here? Brahms? Oh, dear me, no. Rachmaninoff. Too florid. Where's the dance music?
They're the loose ones on the left.
Ah,
I'm afraid none of them are very new.
I see. Daphne's really very attached to Irving Berlin herself. She likes to tune chicken hum. Oh! Ah, here's one. Always.
Always.
Do sit down, Charles. What is the matter?
The light switch is over by the door.
Nothing at all.
Yes, all except for the small one on the desk and the one on the gramophone.
Very well, I understand.
Charles,
Charlie,
keep still.
Fingers touching, George. Remember what Madame Arcadi said.
I cannot guarantee anything will happen at all. Daphne may be unavailable. She's had a head cold very recently and is feeling under the weather. Oh dear. On the other hand, a great many things might happen. One of you might have an emanation, for instance. Or we might make contact with a poltergeist, which would be disastrous and noisy.
In what way disastrous?
If they throw things, you know.
No, I didn't know.
Yes, but we must cross that bridge when we come to it, mustn't we?
And certainly, by all means.
Fortunately, an elemental at this time of year is most unlikely.
What do elementals do?
Oh, my dear, one can never tell. They're dreadfully unpredictable, sometimes taking the form of a very cold wind.
Oh, I don't think I shall like that.
Occasionally reaching hurricane velocity.
You don't think it would be a good idea to take the more breakable ornaments off the mantelpiece before we begin?
That won't be necessary, Mrs. Condamine. I assure you, I have my own methods of dealing with elementals.
I'm so glad.
Now then, are you ready to empty your minds?
Do you mean what to think of nothing?
Absolutely nothing, Dr. Bradman. Try to think of a space or a nondescript color. That's really the best way.
I'll do my damnedest.
Now, I shall start the music.
Oh, yeah.
Is there anyone there? Is there anyone there? 1 rap for yes, 2 raps for no. Is there anyone there? Oh, it's good stuff. Daphne, is that you, my dear? Oh, is your cold better, dear? Oh, I'm sorry. Are you doing anything for it? I'm afraid she's Now you say there's someone there who wishes to speak to someone here? Daphne, dear! Don't do that, please! It hurts! Daphne, please! Never with the big Buddha! There's a dear child. Now you say there's someone there who wishes to speak to someone here. Is it me? Is it Mr. Bradman? Is it Mrs. Bradman? Is it Mrs. Connery? Daphne, behave yourself! Is it Mr. Connery? I believe there's someone who wishes to speak with you!
And tell them to leave a message.
I ask you not to be so preattention, Mr. Connery!
Charles, how can you be so idiotic? We'll spoil everything.
I'm sorry, it slipped out.
Do you know anyone who's passed over recently?
Not recent. Well, my cousin in the civil service, but he wouldn't likely want to communicate with me. We haven't spoken for years.
Are you Mr. Connery's cousin from the civil service? Jeffrey! I'm afraid you must think of someone else, Mr. Connery. Think again. Rack your brain.
It could be old Mrs. Plummet, you know. She died on Whit Monday.
Well, why would old Mrs. Plummet want to talk to me? We had very little in common.
It's worth trying, anyhow.
Are you old Mrs. Plummet?
She was very deaf. Perhaps you'd better shout.
Are you old Mrs. Plummet? I'm afraid there's no one there.
How disappointing, and just as we were getting on so nicely.
Violet, be quiet.
I'm afraid there's nothing for it but for me to go into a trance. I'd hoped to avoid it because it's so exhausting. But what must be, must be. I shall start the gramophone over.
Not always. Please don't play always.
Oh, why ever not? Charles, don't be absurd.
I'm afraid we must. It would be imprudent to change horses midstream, if you know what I mean.
Have it your own way.
Oh, that would be Daphne. She ought to have had her adenoids out.
George, please.
Good God! Oh!
It's still going! I can't hold it! Oh, press down hard! Right! Oh, there now! Shall we pick it up or leave it where it is?
How the hell should I know?
There's no need for you to snap at me.
Leave it where it is.
Who said that?
Who said what?
Somebody said leave it where it is.
Nonsense, dear.
I heard it distinctly.
Well, nobody else did they?
I never heard a sound.
It was you, Ruth. You're playing tricks.
I am not. I haven't done anything of the sort. I haven't uttered.
Good evening, Charles.
Ventriloquism, that's what it is. Ventriloquism.
What is the matter?
You must have heard that. One of you must have heard that.
Heard what?
You mean to sit there solemnly and tell me none of you heard anything at all?
Well, I certainly didn't.
Neither did I. I wish I had. I should love to hear something.
It's you who are playing the tricks, Charles. You are acting to try to frighten us.
I'm not. I swear I'm not.
It's difficult to think of what to say after 7 years, but I suppose good evening is as good as anything else.
Who are you?
Elvira, of course. Don't be silly.
I can't bear this for another minute. Get up, everybody. The entertainment's over.
Oh, Charles, how tiresome of you. Just as we were beginning to enjoy ourselves.
Never again. That's all I can say. Never again as long as I live.
What on earth is the matter with you?
I'm just sick with the whole business, that's all.
Did you hear something that the rest of us didn't really?
Of course not. I was just pretending.
I know you were.
Oh, dear!
Bring her around as soon as
I
possible.
think we should leave her be.
Oh, but she might stay like this for hours.
It's
She's
dangerous.
out all right.
It's dangerous to leave somebody like that. Just bring her. Madam McCarthy.
Really, Charles?
Wake up, Madam McCarthy. It's time to go home. Little Tommy Tucker, get some brandy. Get No! Oh,
Here, here's
bring
the
the chair,
rag.
bring the chair. Oh, oh, Madam McCarthy.
Careful,
Here you go,
putting down
here
her
you
dress.
She's coming round.
Well, that's that.
Are you all right?
Certainly I am. Never felt better in my life.
Oh, the whole experience has unhinged me.
Well, what happened? Was it satisfactory?
Nothing much happened, Madame Arcadi, after you went off.
Oh no, something happened. I sensed it. New aberrations?
Nothing at all.
No poltergeist at any rate, that's good. New ectoplasm?
I'm not quite sure what it is, but I don't think so.
Curious. Very curious. I feel as though something tremendous has taken place.
Charles pretended he heard a voice in order to frighten us.
It was a joke.
A very poor one, if I may say so. Nevertheless, I'm prepared to swear that there's someone else psychic in this room, aside from myself.
I don't see how there can be, Madame Arcadi, really.
I do hope I haven't gone and released something. However, we'll know in a day or two. If you should see any manifestations or hear any strange noises, you might let me know at once.
Of course we will. We'll telephone immediately.
Well, I must be going.
Are you sure you wouldn't like anything else before you go?
Oh, no, thank you. I have Ovaltine in a saucepan at home. It only needs hotting up.
Wouldn't you like to leave your bicycle here and let us drive you in?
I honestly do think you should, Madame Arcadi. After that trance and everything, you can't be feeling quite yourself.
Oh, don't worry, my dear. I always feel capital after a trance. It rejuvenates me. Good night, Mrs. Condon.
Oh, good night. It was so sweet of you to go to all this trouble.
I'm just sorry nothing more happened. It must be that darn cold of deafness. You know how children are when there's anything wrong with them. Oh, we must try and get another evening.
Oh, that would be lovely.
Good night, Mrs. Bradford.
Oh, it was thrilling. It really was. I could feel the table absolutely shaking under my hands.
Good night, Doctor.
Congratulations, Madame Arcadi.
I'm fully aware of the irony in your voice, Doctor.
Charmed, I'm sure.
Good night, everyone. Next time we should really put our backs into it, huh?
Mrs. Condiment, she might hear me.
I can't help it. I really can't. I was holding that in for ages.
She certainly put you in your place, Georgia, and it serves you right.
She's raving mad, of course, mad as a hatter.
But do you think she believes?
Of course not. The whole thing's a put-up job. I will say, though, she shoots a more original line than they generally do.
I should think she's probably half convinced herself by now.
Possible. The trance was real enough, but that's easily enough accounted for.
Hysteria?
Yes. A form of hysteria, I should think.
I do hope Mr. Condiment got all the atmosphere he wanted for his book.
He might have got a great deal more if he hadn't spoiled everything by showing off. I really am very impressed with him. I suddenly felt a draft. There must be a window open.
No, my clothes.
Maybe it's one of those whatchamacallums that Madame Arcadi was talking about.
Elementals.
Oh no, she distinctly said it's the wrong time of year for elementals.
Well, the old girl's gone pedaling down the drive at a hell of a speed. We had a bit of trouble lighting her lamp.
Poor thing.
I have a theory about her, you know. I believe she's completely sincere.
Charles, how can she be?
Would it be possible, Doctor, some form of self-hypnotism?
It might be. As I was explaining to your wife just now, there are certain hysterical subjects who exhibit symptoms very similar to what we saw
George.
from Madame
Dear, it's getting terribly late. We really must go home. You have to get up so early in the morning.
You see, the moment I begin to talk about anything that really interests me, my wife interrupts me.
You know I'm right, darling. It's past 11.
I'll do some reading up on the whole business, just for the fun of it.
Would you like a drink before you go?
No, thank you. I'm fine. That's quite right. I have to get up abominably early in the morning. I have a patient being operated on in Canterbury.
Oh, good night, Mrs. Condiment. It was just thrilling evening, a terrific evening. I shall never forget it. It was really sweet of you to include us.
Good night, Mrs. Connerman, and thank you so much.
You're sure about the drink?
Quite sure, thank you.
Well, we'll let you know if we find any poltergeist whirling about.
I should never forgive you if you didn't.
Come along, darling.
Well, darling,
Well,
would you say the evening had been profitable?
yes, I suppose so.
I must say I found it extremely funny at moments.
Yes, it certainly was.
What's the matter?
The matter?
Yes, you seem old somehow. Do you feel quite well?
Yes, I think I'll have a drink. Do you want one?
No, thank you, dear.
There's certainly a chill in the room.
Come over by the fire.
I don't think I'll make any notes tonight. I'll start fresh in the morning.
Oh my God!
Charles! That was very clumsy, Charles, dear.
Oh, Vera, it's true. It is you.
Of course it was.
Charles, darling Charles, what are you talking about?
Are you a ghost?
I suppose I must be. It's all very confusing.
What do you keep looking over there for? Look at me, what's happened?
Don't you see?
See what?
Elvira!
Elvira!
Yes! Elvira, dear, this is Ruth. Ruth, this is Elvira.
Listen, Charles, just come and sit down, darling.
But don't you see? She's standing there. Look, just a few yards from you.
Listen, Charles, you just sit down quietly by the fire and I will mix you another drink. Don't worry about the mess on the carpet. Edith can clean it in the morning.
You don't see her?
Are you mad? What has happened to you?
I've gone mad.
Well, I think you might at least be a little more pleased to see me. After all, you conjured me up.
I did nothing of the sort.
Nonsense, of course you did. That awful child with the cold came and told me you wanted to see me urgently.
There's been a mistake, a horrible mistake.
Stop talking like this, Charles. This joke has gone far enough.
I've gone mad. I've gone stark, raving mad.
Here. Just drink some brandy.
I'm falling.
Relax.
How should I relax? I should never be able to relax another day in my life.
Just drink some brandy.
There, are you satisfied?
Now sit down.
Why are you so anxious for me to sit down?
I want you to relax. You can't relax standing up.
African natives can. They can stand on one leg for hours.
I don't happen to be an African native.
Don't happen to be a what?
An African native!
Well, what has that got to do with it?
Nothing, Ruth. It has nothing to do with it. We won't speak of this anymore. Look, I've sat down.
Would you like another drink?
Yes, please.
Very unwise. You always had a weak head.
I can drink you under the table.
There's no need to be aggressive, Charles. I'm doing my best to help you.
I'm sorry.
Here, now drink this and we'll go up to bed.
Oh, get rid of her, Charles. Then we can talk in peace.
It's a thoroughly immoral suggestion. You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
What is there immoral in that?
I wasn't talking to you.
Who are you talking to then?
Elvira, of course.
Oh, to hell with Elvira!
There now, she's getting cross.
I can't blame her.
What can't you blame her for?
Oh, my God.
Listen, Charles, I gather you've some sort of plan behind all this. I'm not quite a fool. I suspected you when we were doing that idiotic seance.
Miss, don't be silly. What plan could I have?
I don't know. Probably something to do with the characters in your book. How they or how one of them would react in a certain situation. Well, I refuse to be used as a guinea pig unless I'm warned what it's all about beforehand.
I'm telling you, she's just a few yards from you.
Oh, yes, I can see her distinctly. Under the piano, next to the zebra.
Ruth!
I am not going to stand here arguing any longer.
Hooray!
Shut up!
Dare you talk to me like that?
Ruth, listen.
I will not listen to any more of this nonsense. I am going up to bed. I will leave you to turn out the lights. I shan't be asleep. I am too upset. So, you can come and say goodnight to me if you feel like it.
That's very big of her, I must say.
Be quiet. You're behaving like a gutter snipe.
That is all I have to say. Good night, Charles. Ruth!
I must say that was one of the most enjoyable half hours I have ever spent.
Well, Vera, how could you?
Poor Ruth.
This is obviously an hallucination, isn't it?
I'm afraid I don't know the technical term for it.
What am I to do?
What Ruth suggested. Relax.
Where have you come from?
Do you know it's very peculiar, but I've sort of forgotten.
Are you to be here indefinitely?
I don't know that either.
Oh my God.
Why? Would you hate it so much if I was?
Well, you must admit it would be very, very embarrassing.
I don't see why. It's all a question of adjusting yourself. Anyhow, I think it's hard of you to be so unwelcoming and disagreeable.
Well, try to see my point. I've been married to Ruth for 5 years, and you've been dead for 7.
Not dead, Charles. Passed over. It's considered vulgar to say dead where I come from.
Passed over.
At any rate, now that I'm here, the least you can do is make pretense to be amiable about it.
Well, of course. I'm delighted in one way, dear.
I don't believe you love me anymore.
Well, I should always love the memory of you.
You mustn't think me unreasonable, but I really am a little hurt. You called me back, and at a great inconvenience I came, and you've been thoroughly churlish ever since I arrived.
Believe me, Vera, I most emphatically did not send for you. There's been some mistake.
Well, somebody did, and the child said it was you. I remember I was playing backgammon with a very sweet old Asian gentleman. I think his name was Genghis Khan. I had just thrown double sixes, and then the child paged me. The next thing I knew, I was in this room. Perhaps it was your subconscious.
Well, you must find out whether you're going to stay or not. We can make arrangements accordingly.
I don't see how I can.
Well, try to think. Isn't there anyone you know, anyone that you can get in touch with over there on the other side, whatever you want to call it, who can advise you?
I can't think. It seems so far away, as though I'd dreamed it.
Well, you must know somebody besides Genghis Khan.
Oh, Charles!
What is it?
I want to cry, but I don't think I'm able to.
What do you want to cry for?
It's seeing you again, and you being so irascible, like you always used to be.
I don't mean to be irascible, Vera.
Oh, darling, I don't mind. I never did, really.
Is it cold being a ghost?
I don't think so.
What would happen if I were to touch you?
I doubt if you can. Do you want to?
Oh, Vera.
What is it, darling?
It's strange seeing you again.
That's better.
That's better.
Your voice was kinder.
Was I ever unkind to you when you were alive?
Often.
Oh, Vera, I'm sure that's an exaggeration.
Oh, not at all. You were an absolute pig that time we went to Cornwall and stayed at that awful hotel. You hit me with a billiard cue.
Only very, very gently.
I loved you very much.
I loved you too. I can't touch you. Isn't that horrible?
Perhaps it's as well if I'm going to be here for any length of time.
I suppose I shall wake up eventually. But I feel strangely peaceful now.
Oh, that's right. Lay your head back.
Like that?
Can you feel anything at all?
Only a very slight breeze.
Well, that's better than nothing.
I suppose if I am going out of my mind, they'll put me in an asylum.
Oh, don't worry about that, darling. Just relax.
Poor Ruth.
To hell with Ruth.
Not a cloud in the sky and everything looks newly washed.
Edith's keeping your breakfast hot. You better ring.
Anything interesting in the Times?
Don't be silly, Charles.
I intend to work all day.
Good.
It's extraordinary about daylight, isn't it?
How do you mean?
The way it reduces everything to normal.
Does it?
Yes, it does.
I'm sure I'm very glad to hear it.
You're very glacial this morning.
Are you surprised?
Frankly, yes. I expect more of you.
Well, really?
I've always looked upon you as a woman of perception and understanding.
Well, perhaps this is one of my off days.
Good morning, Edith.
Good morning, sir.
Feeling fit?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
How's Cook?
I don't know, sir. I haven't asked her.
Well, you should. You should begin each day by asking everybody how they're doing. It oils the wheels.
Yes, sir.
Read her from me, will you?
Yes, sir.
That would be all for the moment, Edith.
Yes, sir.
I wish you wouldn't be facetious with the servants, Charles. It confuses them and undermines their morale.
I consider that point of view retrogressive, if not downright futile.
I don't care what you consider it. I have to run the house and you don't.
Are you implying that I couldn't?
You're at liberty to try.
I take back what I said about it being a good morning. It's a horrid morning.
You'd better eat your breakfast while it's hot.
It isn't.
Now look here, Charles. In your younger days, this display of roguish flippancy might have been alluring, but in a middle-aged novelist, it is nauseating.
Would you like me to writhe at your feet in a frenzy of self-abasement?
That would be equally as nauseating, but certainly more appropriate.
I know what I've done that's so awful.
You behaved abominably last night. You wounded me and insulted me.
I was a victim of an aberration.
Nonsense! You were drunk.
Drunk?
You had 4 strong dry martinis before dinner, a great deal too much burgundy at dinner. Heaven knows how much port and Cumel with Dr. Bradman while I was doing my best to entertain that mad woman. And 2 double brandies later, I gave them tea myself. Of course you were drunk.
So that's your story, is it?
You refused to come up to bed, and when I came down at 3 in the morning to see what had happened, I found you in an alcoholic coma on the sofa with the fire out and your hair all over your face.
I was not drunk. Something happened last night. Something very peculiar happened to me.
Nonsense.
It isn't nonsense. I know it looks like nonsense in the clear, remorseless light of day, but last night it was far from being nonsense. I honestly had some sort of hallucination.
I would really rather not discuss it any further.
But we must discuss it. It's disturbing.
There I agree with you. It's extremely disturbing. It showed you up in the most unpleasant light.
During the seance, I was convinced that I heard Elvira's voice.
Well, nobody else did.
I can't help that. I did.
But you couldn't have.
And then later on, I was equally convinced that she was in this room. I saw her distinctly, talked to her. After you had gone up to bed, we had quite a cozy little chat.
And you seriously expect me to believe that you weren't drunk?
I know I wasn't drunk. If I'd been all that drunk, I should have a dreadful hangover now, shouldn't I?
I'm not at all sure that you haven't.
I haven't a trace of a headache. My tongue's not coated. Look at it.
Kindly put your tongue in your mouth again. I have no desire to look at it.
I know what it is. You're frightened.
Frightened. Rubbish. What is there to be frightened of?
Elvira, you wouldn't have minded all that much, even if I had been drunk. It's that it was all mixed up with Elvira.
I seem to remember last night before dinner telling you that your views of female psychology were didactic. I was right. I should have added that they're puerile.
That's when it all began.
When what all began?
We were talking too much about Elvira. It's strange to have somebody so strongly on your mind when you start dealing with the occult.
She certainly wasn't strongly in my mind.
Well, she was in mine.
Oh, she was she?
You tried to make me say that she was more physically attractive than you, just so you can hold it over me.
I did not. I don't give a hoot how physically attractive she was.
Oh, yes, you do. Your whole being is devoured in jealousy.
Oh, this is too much.
Women, my God, what I think of women.
Your view of women is academic, to say the least of it. Just because you've always been dominated by them doesn't necessarily follow that you should know anything about them.
I've never been dominated by anyone.
Oh, yes, you have. You were hag-ridden by your mother until you were 23, and then you got into the clutches of that awful Mrs. whatever her name was.
Mrs. Winthrop Ellen.
I'm not interested. And then there was Elvira. She ruled you with a rod of iron.
Elvira never ruled anyone. She was much too elusive. That was one of her greatest charms.
And then there was Maud Charteris.
My affair with Maud Charteris lasted exactly 7.5 weeks, and she cried all the time.
Oh, the tyranny of tears.
If you wish to make an inventory of my sex life, dear, I think it's only fair to tell you that you've missed out on several episodes. I'll consult my diary and give you the complete list after lunch.
There's no use trying to impress me with your routine amorous exploits.
The only woman who's ever tried to dominate me is you, and you've been at it for years.
That is absolutely untrue.
No, it isn't. You boss me and bully me and order me about. You don't even let me have an hallucination if I want to.
Charles, alcohol will ruin your life if you allow it to get a hold on you, you know.
I want you to understand that what happened last night had nothing whatever to do with alcohol. I was stone cold sober from first to last and extremely upset into the bargain.
You were upset indeed? What about me? You seem to forget that you gratuitously insulted me.
I did not.
You called me a gutter snipe. You told me to shut up, and when I quietly suggested that we go up to bed, you said with the most disgusting leer that it was an immoral suggestion.
I was talking to Elvira.
If you were, I can only say that that conjures up a fragrant picture of your first marriage.
My first marriage was perfectly charming, and I find it in the worst possible taste for you to sneer at it.
I'm not nearly so interested in your first marriage as you think I am. It's your second marriage that's absorbing me at the moment. It seems to me to be on the rocks.
Only because you persist in taking up this ridiculous attitude.
My attitude is that of any woman whose husband gets drunk and hurls abuse at
I
her.
was not drunk.
Be quiet, Charles. They will hear you in the kitchen.
I don't care if they hear me in Folkestone Town Hall. I was not drunk. Not drunk, not drunk, not drunk.
Oh, control yourself, Charles.
How can I control myself in the face of your idiotic damn stubbornness? It's giving me claustrophobia.
You had better bring up Dr. Bradman.
Can I please him?
Yes, Edith.
Cook wants to know about lunch, Mum.
Will you be into lunch, Charles?
Don't worry about me. I'll be perfectly happy with a bottle of gin in my bedroom.
Don't be silly, darling. Tell Cook we'll both be into lunch.
Yes.
I'm going into Hyatt this morning. Is there anything you want?
A great deal, but I doubt you could find it in Hyatt.
Tell Cook to put Alka-Seltzer on my list, will you, Edith?
Yes.
Oh, it's clouding over.
You have a genius for understatement.
Don't worry about the table, Edith. I'll put it away.
Yes.
It's be reasonable.
I am perfectly reasonable.
I wasn't pretending. I honestly believe I heard Elvira last night, and when I did, I was appalled.
Well, you put up with her for 5 years.
And then when I saw her, I had a shock of my life. That's why I dropped the glass.
But you couldn't have seen her.
I know I couldn't have, but I did.
Well, I'm willing to concede then that you imagined that you did.
That's what I've been trying to explain to you for hours.
Well, there's obviously something wrong with you then.
Exactly. There's something wrong with me. Something fundamentally wrong with me. That's why I've been imploring your sympathy, and all I've gotten is a sterile temperance lecture.
You were drinking, Charles. There's no denying that.
No more than usual.
Well, how do you account for it then?
I can't account for it. That's what's so awful.
Did you feel quite well yesterday during the day, I mean?
Of course I did.
What did you have for lunch?
Well, you ought to know. You had just what I had.
Oh, well, let's see. There was lemon sole and that cheese thing.
Why would a cheese thing at lunch make me see my deceased wife after dinner?
You never know. It was rather rich.
You had just as much of it as I did. Why didn't you see your dead husband?
Oh, this isn't getting us anywhere at all.
Of course it didn't. And it isn't. And it wouldn't. As long as you keep insisting on ascribing supernatural phenomena to colonic irritation.
Perhaps you ought to see a nerve specialist.
Not in the least neurotic, and never have been.
A psychoanalyst, then.
I refused to endure months of expensive humiliation, only to be told at the end of it, at the age of 4, I was in love with my rocking horse.
Well, what do you suggest, then?
I don't suggest anything. I'm profoundly uneasy.
Perhaps there's something pressing on your brain.
If I had something pressing on my brain, I should have violent headaches, shouldn't I?
Well, not necessarily. An uncle of mine had a lump the size of a cricket ball pressing on his brain for years, and he never felt a thing.
I think I should know if I had anything like that.
Well, he didn't.
What happened to it?
He had it taken out, and he has been bright as a button ever since.
Well, did he have any delusions? Did he see things that weren't there?
No, I don't think so.
What the hell are we talking about him for? It's a sheer waste of time.
I only brought him up as an example.
I think I'm going mad.
Well, how do you feel now?
Physically, you mean?
Well, altogether.
Apart from being worried, I feel quite normal.
Good, and you're not seeing or hearing anything in the least unusual?
Not a thing.
You've absolutely ruined that border by the sundial. It looks like a mixed salad.
Oh my God.
What's the matter?
She's here again.
Who's here again?
Elvira.
Oh, pull yourself together and don't be absurd.
It's all those nasturtiums. They're so vulgar.
I like nasturtiums.
You like what?
They're all right in moderation, but in a mass like that, they look beastly.
I tell you, she's here again.
What did you mean about nasturtiums?
Never mind about that. She's here again.
You've been having a nice scene, haven't you? I could hear you right down the garden.
Please mind your own business.
If you behaving like a lunatic isn't my business, then nothing is.
I expect it was about me, wasn't it? I know I ought to feel sorry, but I'm not. I'm delighted.
How can you be? Oh, I can't believe she's being that way.
You were trying to upset me. For some obscure reason, you were trying to goad me into doing something that I might regret.
Ruth,
Well, I won't stand for it anymore. You were making me utterly miserable.
Ruth,
Don't come near me.
Oh, let her have a nice cry. It'll do us some good.
you're utterly heartless.
Heartless.
I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to Elvira.
Well, go and talking to her then. Talk to her until you're blue in the face, but don't talk to me.
Elvira, help me.
How?
Make her see you or something.
Oh, I'm afraid I couldn't manage that. It's technically the most difficult business, frightfully complicated. You know, it takes years of study.
You are here, aren't you? You're not an illusion.
Well, I may be an illusion, but I'm most definitely here.
Where did you come from?
I told you last night I don't exactly know.
Well, you must promise me that whenever you want to talk to me, you come when I'm alone.
How unkind you are, making me feel so unwanted. I've never been treated so rudely.
I don't mean to be
It's
rude.
all your own fault for having married a woman who can't see beyond the nose on her face. If she had a real grain of sympathy and affection for you, she'd believe what you tell her.
How do you expect anybody to believe this?
You'd be surprised how gullible people are. We often laugh about it on the other side.
Charles,
Yes, dear.
I'm awfully sorry I was cross.
But Ruth, dear.
I understand everything now, I really do.
You do.
Of course I do.
Look out, she's up to something.
Please be quiet.
Okay, we'll all be quiet, won't we? We'll be as quiet as little mice.
Now listen, Ruth.
I want you to come upstairs and go to bed with me.
Oh, the way that woman harps on bed is nothing short of erotic.
I'll deal with you later.
Very well, dear. Come along.
What are you up to?
I'm not up to anything. I just want you to come upstairs with me and wait quietly until Dr. Bradman comes.
No, Ruth, you're wrong.
Come, dear.
She'll have you in a straitjacket before you know where you are.
Well, help me. You've got to help me.
Oh, my darling, I would with pleasure, but I just can't see how.
Yeah. Ruth,
Yes, dear.
if I promise to go up to bed, will you let me stay here just for 5 minutes longer?
I really think it would be better if you just come up.
Bear with me just 5 minutes longer, no matter how maddening it may be. Please,
Very well. What is it?
sit down.
All right. There.
Now listen carefully.
Oh, have a drink. It'll soothe your nerves.
I don't want a drink.
Then you shouldn't have one, darling.
Ruth, I want to explain to you, without a shadow of a doubt, that the ghost or shade or whatever you want to call it, of my first wife, Elvira, is in this room now. You see the bowl of flowers on the vase, on the piano?
Yes, dear, I did it myself this morning.
Very untidily, if I may say so.
You may not.
Very well, I never will again then, I promise.
Elvira will now take the vase to the mantel and back again. Won't you, Elvira, just to please me?
I don't see why I should. You've been quite insufferable to me ever since I materialized.
Please!
All right. Not that I approve of all these masculine and devant carryings-on.
Now watch carefully, Ruth. All right, Elvira. From the piano to the mantelpiece and back again. Thank you. That's sweet of you. I appreciate it.
Charles, how dare you! You ought to be ashamed of yourself!
What on earth for?
Oh, it is a trick! I know perfectly well it's a trick! You have been leading up to this. This is all part of some horrible plan.
It isn't, I swear it is. Do something, Elvira, for God's sake.
Certainly anything to oblige.
You're trying to get rid of me. You're trying to drive me out of my mind.
No, I swear.
You are cruel and sadistic, and I will never forgive you.
No.
Let me go! Let me go!
It was Elvira, I
Charles,
swear.
this is some sort of auto-suggestion, some sort of hypnotism. Swear to me that it is only that. Swear to me that it is only that.
Oh, hypnotism, my foot!
Mrs. Contamine, I came directly. I got your message.
That was so kind of you.
Oh, no, not kind at all. I look upon it as an outing.
I'm so glad. Will you have some tea?
China or Indian?
China.
Good. I never touch Indian.
Would you sit down?
2 sugars and no milk at all, please.
I am profoundly disturbed, Madame Arcadi, and I want your help.
Aha! I knew as much. What's in these sandwiches?
Cucumber.
Oh, couldn't be better. Fire away.
It is most awfully difficult to explain.
Facts first, explanations afterwards.
It's the facts that are difficult to explain. They're so fantastic.
Facts very often are. Take creative talent, for instance. How do you account for that? Look at Shakespeare and Michelangelo. Try and explain Mozart snatching sounds out of the air and putting them down on paper when he was practically a baby. Facts. Plain facts. I know it's fashion nowadays to ascribe it all to Gaul, but my reply to that is fiddly-dee.
Yes, I'm sure you're quite right.
There are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in your philosophies, Mrs. Contamine.
They certainly are.
Come now. Take the plunge. Out with it. You've heard strange noises in the night, no doubt. Boards creaking, doors slamming, subdued moaning in the passages, is that it?
No, I'm afraid that isn't it.
No sudden gusts of cold wind, I hope.
No, it's worse than that.
Oh, I'm all attention.
I know it sounds idiotic, but the other night during the seance, something happened.
I knew it! Probably a poltergeist. They're enormously cunning, you know. They sometimes lay doggo for days.
You know my husband was married once before.
Yes, I've heard it mentioned.
His first wife, Elvira, died comparatively young.
Where?
Here, in this house, in this very room.
I'm beginning to see daylight.
She was convalescing after pneumonia one evening, and she started to laugh helplessly at one of the BBC musical programs and died of a heart attack.
And she materialized here the other evening after I'd gone.
But not to me, but to my husband.
Capital! Capital! Isn't that splendid?
From your own professional standpoint, I can see that it might be regarded as a major achievement.
A triumph, my dear. Nothing more or less than a triumph.
But from my own personal point of view, it is, to say the least of it, embarrassing.
At last! A true, genuine materialization!
Please sit down again, Madame Arcadi.
How could anyone sit down at a moment like this? It's tremendous! I haven't seen such success since the Sudbury case.
Nevertheless, I must insist upon you sitting down and controlling your natural exuberance. I appreciate fully your pride in your achievement, but I must point out that it has made my position in this house untenable, and I hold you entirely responsible.
Forgive me, Mrs. Contamine. I'm being abominably selfish. How may I help you?
How? By sending her back to where she came from immediately, of course.
Oh, I'm afraid that's easier said than done.
You mean she's liable to stay here indefinitely?
It's difficult to say. I fear it depends largely on her.
Oh, but my dear Madame Hakari.
Where is she now?
My husband has driven her into Folkestone. Apparently she was anxious to see an old friend of hers who's staying at the Grand.
You must forgive me, Mrs. Condamine, but I must make a report to the psychical research people.
I would be very much obliged if there were no names mentioned.
It will be perfectly confidential.
This is a small village, you know, and gossip would be most undesirable.
Yes, I quite understand. You say she's visible only to your husband?
Yes.
Visible only to husband? Audible too, I presume?
Extremely audible.
Extremely audible. And your husband's devoted to her?
Yes, I believe he was.
Husband devoted.
It was apparently a reasonably happy marriage.
Oh, tut-tut.
I beg your pardon?
When did she pass over?
7 years ago.
Oh! That means she must have been on the waiting list.
Waiting list?
Yes. Otherwise, she would have never made it past the materialization stage by now. She must have put herself down on the waiting list and wanted a return visit, but she never would have been able to manage it unless there was a strong influence at work.
You mean Charles, my husband, wanted her back all that much?
Possibly. Or it was her own determination.
Oh, that seems much more likely.
Was she a woman of strong character?
I don't know, Madame Arcadi. I never met her, nor am I particularly interested in how and why she got here. My sole question is the concern of how to get her away again as soon as possible.
I fully sympathize with you, Mrs. Condamine. I really do. I really do, and I assure you I will do everything in my power to help. But at the moment, I fear I have no such great hopes.
But I always understood there was some sort of way of exorcising ghosts, some sort of ritual.
Yes. You mean the old bell and book method?
Yes, I suppose I do.
Yes, poppycock, Mrs. Condamine. Yes, it was very effective in the old days of genuine religious belief. But that's all changed now. I believe it's the decline in the spirits world that is causing grave concerns.
Is it indeed?
Oh, yes. There was a time when even a drop of holy water could send a poltergeist scampering for cover. But not anymore. Who saw the nose don't fall.
Be that as it may, Madame Arcadi, I must insist upon you doing your utmost to dematerialize my husband's first wife as soon as possible.
The time has come for me to admit to you frankly, Mrs. Condamine, that I haven't the slightest idea on how to set about it.
Do you mean to sit there and tell me that having mischievously conjured up this ghost or spirit or whatever she is and placed me in this hideous position, you are unable to do anything about it at all?
Honesty's the best policy.
Oh, but it is outrageous. I ought to hand you over to the police.
You go too far, Mrs. Condamine.
I go too far indeed. Do you realize what your insane amateur muddling has done?
Amateur? I have been a professional since I was a child, Mrs. Condamine. Amateur is a word I cannot tolerate.
It seems to me to be the height of amateurishness to evoke malignant spirits and not be able to get rid of them again.
Ooh, I was in a trance. Anything can happen when you're in a trance.
Well, all I can suggest is that you go into another one immediately and get this damned woman out of my house.
I can't give it in trances at a moment's notice. It takes hours of preparation. In addition to which, I have to be extremely careful of my diet for days beforehand. Well, take today, for instance. I happened to lunch with friends and had the pigeon pie. That plus these cucumber sandwiches would make a trance completely out of the question.
Well, you'll have to do something.
I could report the whole matter to the psychical research people.
Oh, will they be able to do anything?
I doubt it. Oh, they do a lot of questioning and wall tapping and mambo jumbo. And then, of course, you'd have to go to London to testify. They'd want a conference about it.
Oh, it's too humiliating. It really is.
Oh, try not to upset yourself, Mrs. Condamine. Nothing is achieved by upsetting yourself.
That's all very fine for you to talk like this, Madame Arcadi. You don't seem to have the faintest realization of my position.
I don't like your tone, Mrs. Condamine. I really don't.
Well, you most decidedly have no right not to.
Kindly remember that I came here the other evening on your own invitation.
On my husband's invitation.
I did what I was requested to do, which was to give a seance and establish contact with the other side. How was I supposed to know that there was any ulterior motive mixed up with it?
Ulterior motive.
Your husband was obviously eager to make contact with his first wife. And had I known about it beforehand, I naturally would have consulted you first. After all, noblesse oblige.
He was not eager to get in touch with anyone. The whole thing was planned in order for him to get material for a mystery novel he is writing about a homicidal medium.
Am I to understand that I was invited out of the spirit of mockery?
Not at all. He merely wanted to take notes on some of the tricks of the trade.
Tricks of the trade! I've never been so insulted in my life. Insufferable. I fear we have nothing more to say to one another, Mrs. Podbean.
Oh.
Goodbye.
Please, don't go! Please!
Your attitude has been upsetting from the outset. And I should also like to say, without umbrage, that if you and your husband were foolish enough to tamper with the unseen out of paltry motives and in the spirit of ribaldry, then whatever has happened to you is your own fault. And, to coin a phrase, as far as I'm concerned, you can steal with your own juice! Ha!
Damn!
What on earth was Madame McCarthy doing here?
She came to tea.
Did you ask her?
Of course I did.
You didn't tell me you were going to.
You didn't tell me you were going to ask Elvira to live with us.
I didn't.
Oh, yes, you did, darling. It was your subconscious.
What was the old girl so cross about? She practically cut me dead.
I told her the truth about why we invited her here the other evening.
That was quite unnecessary and most unkind.
She needed taking down a bit. She was blowing herself out like a powder pigeon.
What did you ask her to tea for?
To get me exercised, of course. Oh, my dear, cucumber sandwiches. I wish I could have one. I did love them so.
Is that true?
Is what true?
What Elvira said.
You know perfectly well I cannot hear what Elvira says.
She said you got Madame McCarthy here to ask her to have her exercise.
We discussed the possibility.
There's a snake in the grass for you.
You had no right to do such a thing without consulting me first.
I had every right. This situation is absolutely impossible, and you know it.
You'd only try to be a little more friendly to Elvira. I don't see why we can't have a really jolly good time of it.
I have no wish to have a jolly good time with Elvira.
She's certainly very bad-tempered, isn't she? I don't know why you married her.
She's naturally a bit upset. We must make allowances.
I was never bad-tempered, though, was I, darling? Not even when you were beastly to me.
I was never beastly to you.
Where is Elvira at the moment?
On the roof.
Now, look here, Elvira. I wish to be absolutely honest with you.
Oh, hold on to your hats, boys.
I admit, I asked Madame Arcadi here with a view of getting you exercise, and I think that if you were in my position, you would have done exactly the same thing, wouldn't you?
I shouldn't have done it so obviously.
What did she say?
Nothing. She just nodded and smiled.
Thank you, Elvira. That's very generous. I really would rather there are no misunderstandings between us.
That's very generous of you. I agree completely.
Now, before we go any further, I wish to ask you a frank question. Why did you really come here? I don't see that you could have hoped to have achieved anything by it beyond the immediate joke of making Charles into a sort of astral bigamist.
I came because Charles' love tugged and tugged and tugged at me, didn't it, my sweet?
What did she say?
She said she came because she wanted to see me again.
Well, she's done that now, hasn't she?
We can't be inhospitable, Ruth.
I have no wish to be inhospitable. I should just like to know how long you intend to stay, Elvira.
I don't know. I really don't. Isn't it awful?
She says she doesn't know.
Surely that's a little inconsiderate.
Well, didn't the old spiritualist have any constructive ideas about getting rid of me?
What did Madame Arcadi say?
She said she couldn't do a thing.
Hooray!
Now don't be upset, dear. We shall soon adjust ourselves, you know. You must see that it is a kind of unique experience. I don't see why we can't have a great deal of fun out of it.
Fun? Charles, you must be out of your mind.
No, I thought I was at first, but now I'm beginning to enjoy myself.
Oh, Charles! Charles!
Oh, she's off again.
Don't be so callous, Elvira.
I expect she said something insulting.
No, she didn't do anything of the sort.
Now look here, Elvira.
She's over by the window.
Well, why the hell can't she stay in the same spot?
Temper again, my poor Charles. What a terrible life you must lead.
Do shut up, darling. You're only making things worse.
Who was that darling addressed to? Her or me?
Both of you.
Oh, this is intolerable!
Well, don't go making scenes again.
I have been doing my level best to control myself ever since yesterday morning, and I am damned if I'm going to try any more. The strain is too much. She has the advantage of being able to say whatever she pleases without me hearing her. But she can hear me all right, can't she? Without any modified interpreting.
Modified interpreting? I don't know what you mean.
Oh, yes, you do. You haven't told me once what she really said, and judging from her photograph, she's the type who would use most unpleasant language.
Ruth, you're not to talk like that.
I have been making polite conversation all through breakfast and dinner and lunch, and it's been a nightmare, and I'm not going to do it anymore. I don't like Elvira any more than she likes me, and what's more, I'm certain I never could have, dead or alive. If since her untimely arrival here the other evening, she had shown the slightest sign of good manners, the slightest sign of breeding, I might have felt differently. But all she's done is make mischief between us and have private jokes with you against me. I am going up to my room now, and I shall have my dinner on a tray. And you and she can have the house to yourselves and joke and gossip till your heart's content. The first thing in the morning, I am going up to London to interview the Psychical Research Society. And if they fail me, I will go straight to the Archbishop of Canterbury.
Oh, let her go. She'll calm down later on.
It's unlike her to behave like this. She's usually so equable.
No, she isn't. Not really. Her mouth gives her away, Charles. It's a hard mouth.
The mouse had nothing to do with it, and I resent you discussing Ruth as though she were a horse.
Do you love her?
Of course I do.
As much as you loved me?
Don't be silly. It's all entirely different.
Oh, I'm so glad. Nothing could have ever been quite the same, could it?
You've always behaved very badly.
Oh, Charles.
I'm grieved to see your sojourn in the other world hasn't improved you in the least.
Oh, go on, Charles. I love it when you pretend to be cross with me.
I'm going up to talk to Ruth now.
Cowardly custard.
Don't be idiotic. I can't let her leave like that. I must be a little nice and sympathetic.
I don't see why. She said I'm being disagreeable. I should just let her get on with it.
Well, the whole business is difficult. We must be fair.
She should learn to be more adaptable.
I'm sure she will in time, but it's all been a shock.
Has it been a shock for you too, darling?
Well, of course. What did you expect?
A nice shock?
What do you want, Elvira?
Want? I don't know what you mean.
I remember when you were overpoweredly demure, it usually meant you wanted something.
Oh, I think it's horrid of you to be so suspicious of me. All I want is to be with you.
Well, you are.
I mean, alone, darling. If you go and pamper Ruth and swarm her over, she'll probably come flouncing down again, and our lovely quiet evening together will be spoiled.
You're incorrigibly selfish.
Well, I haven't seen you for 7 years. It's only natural that I should want a little time alone with you to talk over old times. I'll let you go and check on Ruth if you really think it's your duty.
Of course it is.
Then I don't mind.
You're disgraceful, Elvira.
You won't be gone long, will you? You come down again very soon?
I shall probably dress for dinner. You could read the Times or something.
Oh, Charles, you don't have to dress for me.
I always dress for dinner.
What are you going to have? I should like to watch you eat something really delicious.
You be a good girl. You play the gramophone if you like.
Thank you, Charles.
Everything went wrong, and the whole day long I feel at home for the longest while.
still pouring.
I sympathize with you. I really do. It has really been a chapter of accidents, hasn't it?
It certainly has.
You know, that happens sometimes. Everything seems to go wrong at once. Exactly as though there were some evil forces at work. I remember once when George and I went away for our fortnight's holiday, not long after we were married. We were dogged by bad luck from beginning to end. The weather was vile. George sprained his ankle. I caught a cold and had to be in bed for 2 days. And to crown everything, the lamp in the sitting room fell over and set fire to the treatise that George had written on hyperplasia of the abdominal glands.
How dreadful.
He had to write the whole thing over again. Every single word.
Are you sure you would like a cocktail or some sherry or something?
Oh, no, thank you, really not. George will be down in a minute, and we have to go like lightning. We're expected at the Wilmots at 7, and it's nearly that now.
I think I'll have a little sherry. I feel I need it.
Don't worry about your husband's arm, Mrs. Condiment. I'm sure that it's only a sprain.
It's not his arm I'm worried about.
And I'm sure that Edith will be up and about again in a few days.
My cook gave notice this morning.
Well, really. Servants are awful, aren't they? Not a shred of gratitude. And the first sign of any kind of trouble, they run out on you like rats leaving a sinking ship.
I'm not sure I feel your simile is entirely fortunate, Mrs. Bratton.
Oh, well, I didn't mean that. Really, I didn't.
Nothing to worry about, Mrs. Condiment. It's only a slight sprain.
I'm so relieved.
You made a great deal of fuss while I examined it. Men are much worse patients than women, you know, especially highly strung men like your husband.
Is he highly strung, do you think?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I wanted to talk to you about that. I'm afraid he's been overworking lately.
Overworking?
Yes, he's in a rather nervous condition. Nothing serious, you understand.
What makes you think so?
No, I know the symptoms. Of course, the shock of the fall might have had something to do with it, but I certainly would advise a complete rest for a couple of weeks.
Oh, you mean he ought to go away?
Oh, I do. In cases like that, a change of atmosphere can do wonders.
What symptoms did you notice?
No, nothing to be unduly alarmed about. A certain air of strain, an inability to focus his eyes on the person he's talking to, a few marked irrelevancies in his conversation.
I see. Do you remember any specific examples?
Oh, well, he suddenly shouted, "What are you doing in the bathroom?" And then, a little later, as I was writing his prescription, he suddenly said, "For God's sakes, behave yourself."
How extraordinary.
Oh, no. He often goes on like that, particularly when he's immersed in writing a book.
Really, I'm not perturbed by it in the least, but I certainly think a change and rest would be a good idea.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Would you like some sherries?
No, thank you. We really must be going.
How is poor Edith?
She'll be all right in a few days. She's still recovering from the concussion.
It's funny, isn't it, that your housemaid and your husband should fall down on the same day, isn't it?
Yes. If that sort of thing amuses you.
Oh, of course I didn't mean it like that, Mrs. Condiment.
Come along, my dear. You're talking too much as usual.
You are horrid, George.
I'll pop in and have a look at both patients sometime tomorrow morning.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
Well, how does it feel?
All right.
It's only a slight sprain, you know.
Is this damn sling really essential?
It's a wise precaution. It'll prevent you using your left hand unless it's really necessary.
I had intended to drive into Folkestone this evening.
It would be better if you didn't.
It's an extreme inconvenience.
You can easily wait and go tomorrow, Charles.
I can't stand another dreary night at home, Charles. It'll drive me dotty. And I haven't been to a movie in 7 years.
Well, let me be the first to congratulate you.
What was that, old man?
Charles, dear, be sensible, I implore you.
Sorry, I forgot.
Well, if you do take the car, you can take the car if you promise to be very careful and go very slowly. Your gear changes on the right, is it not?
Yes.
Well, use your left hand as little as possible.
All right.
You'd much better stay at home.
Couldn't you drive him in?
I'm afraid not. There's lots to do around the house, and then there's Edith to be attended to.
Well, I'll let you fight it out amongst yourselves, but remember, if you do insist on going, carefully does it. The roads are very slippery anyhow. Come along, Violet.
Goodbye again.
Goodbye.
Oh, you really are infuriating, Elvira. Surely you could wait and go to the movies another night. And stop behaving like a schoolgirl. You are old enough to know better.
What?
I was talking to Elvira.
She isn't here.
Well, she was a moment ago. She threw a rose at me.
I remember when she was always high-spirited. It usually meant she was up to something.
You're sure she isn't here?
I'm quite sure.
I want to talk to you.
Oh, God.
I must. It's important.
You've been behaving well for the last few days. I hope you're not going to start making scenes again.
I resent that air of patronage, Charles. I have behaved well, as you call it, because there was nothing else to do. But I feel it only fair to warn you that I offer no guarantee for the future. My patience is being stretched to its uttermost.
As far as I can see, the position is just as bad for Elvira as it is for you, if not more so. The poor little thing comes trustingly back from the other world, and what is she faced with? Nothing but brazen and
Well,
hostility.
What did she expect?
Well, surely even an ectoplasmic manifestation has a right to a little bit of the milk of human kindness.
Milk of human fiddlesticks.
And that just doesn't make sense, dear.
Elvira is about as trusting as a puff adder.
You are horrible, Ruth. Absolutely. Granted, you're just like Granted.
And a good deal more dangerous, into the bargain.
Dangerous? Never heard anything so ridiculous. How could a poor, wistful little spirit like Elvira be dangerous?
Quite easily, and she is. She's beginning to show her hand.
How? In what way?
This is a fight, Charles. A bloody battle. A duel to the death between Elvira and me. Don't you realize that?
Melodramatic hysteria.
It isn't melodramatic hysteria. It's true. Can't you see?
No, I can't. Jealousy causes people to have the most curious delusions.
I am making every effort not to lose my temper with you, Charles, but I must say you are making it increasingly difficult for me.
All this talk of battles and duels.
She came here with one purpose and one purpose only, and if you can't see it, you're a bigger fool than I thought you.
What purpose could she have other than the natural desire to see me? You must remember that she was extremely attached to you, the poor child.
Her purpose is perfectly obvious. It is to get you to herself forever.
That's absurd. How could she?
By killing you off.
Killing me off? You're mad.
Why do you suppose Edith fell down the stairs and nearly cracked her skull?
What's Edith got to do with it?
Because the whole top stair was covered with axle grease. Cook discovered it afterwards.
You're making this up.
I'm not. I swear I'm not. Why do you suppose when you were lopping that dead branch off the pear tree that the ladder broke? Because it was practically sawn through on both sides.
But why would she want to kill me? I can imagine why she would want to kill you, but why would she want to kill me?
If you were dead, it would be her final triumph over me. She'd have you with her forever on that damned astral plane of hers, and I'd be left high and dry. She's probably planning a sort of spiritual remarriage. I wouldn't put anything past her.
Ruth.
Can't you see?
She couldn't be so sly, so wicked. She couldn't.
Couldn't she just?
I grant you that as a character she's light and irresponsible, but I'd never believed her capable of such low cunning.
But perhaps the spirit world has deteriorated her.
What are we to do?
You were not to let her know that we suspected Thane behaved perfectly ordinarily as though nothing had happened. I am going in to see Madame Arcadi. I don't care how cross she is with us. She has got to help us. Even if she can't get rid of Elvira, she's got to know some sort of technical method of rendering her harmless. If a trance is necessary, she shall go into a trance if I have to beat her into it. Tell Elvira I have gone to see the vicar. I will be back in half an hour.
This is appalling.
Never mind that. Remember now, don't give yourself away by so much as a flick of an eyelid.
Look out.
What?
I merely said it's a nice lookout.
What's a nice lookout?
The weather, the glass look. It's practically down, down, down. It's positively macabre.
You know, I find it difficult to believe that at this particular moment that you and Ruth can't find anything more interesting to talk about than the weather.
I can't stand this anymore. I really can't.
Oh, is she broken out again?
What did she say?
She asked if you had broken out again.
Oh, how dare you talk to me like that, Elvira?
Ruth.
Charles and I were not talking about the weather as you so very shrewdly expected. I should loathe you to think that we have any secrets from you. And so I will tell you exactly what we were talking about. I was trying to convince Charles not to drive you into Folkestone because it would be bad for his arm and you could perfectly easily wait until tomorrow. But as he seems determined to place your wishes before mine and everything. I have nothing further to say. I'm sure I hope you both enjoy yourselves.
There now.
Oh, Charles, have you been beastly to her?
No, Ruth doesn't like to be thwarted any more than you do.
She's a woman of sterling character. It's a pity she's so ungiving.
I told you before, I don't like discussing Ruth with you. It makes me uncomfortable.
Very well, I'll never mention her again. Are you ready?
For what?
To go to Folkestone, of course.
I want a glass of sherry first.
I don't believe you want to take me at all.
Of course I do, but I still think we should wait till tomorrow. It's a filthy night.
Oh, how familiar this is.
In what way familiar?
All through our married life, I only had to mention something for you immediately to start hedging me off.
I'm not hedging you off. I merely
All
said...
right. We'll spend another cozy, intimate evening at home with Ruth sewing away at that hideous table center and snapping at us like a terrier.
Ruth is perfectly aware that the table center is hideous. It happens to be a birthday present for her mother.
It's no use trying to defend Ruth's taste to me. It's thoroughly artsy-crassy, and you know it.
It's not artsy-crassy.
She's absolutely ruined this room. Look at those curtains. And that awful shawl on the piano.
Lady McKinney sent that to us from Burma.
Obviously, because it had been sent to her from Birmingham.
If you don't behave yourself, I shan't take you to Folkestone ever.
Oh, Charles, please don't be elderly and grand with me.
Not
Please,
until-
let's go now.
Not until I've had my sherry.
You are tiresome, darling. I've been waiting about for hours.
Well, a few more minutes won't make any difference then.
Oh, very well.
Besides, the car won't be back for half an hour at least.
What do you mean?
Ruth's taking it to see the vicar.
What?
What on earth's the matter?
You said Ruth's taking the car?
Yes, she had to go see the vicar, but she won't be
Oh,
long.
my God. Oh, my God.
Elvira!
Stop her! You must stop her at
What
once!
are it for?
Stop her! Go and stop her
I did!
immediately!
I heard the car leave a few minutes ago.
Oh.
What have you... Elvira, what have you done?
Done? I haven't done anything.
Elvira, you're lying.
I'm not lying. What is there to lie about?
Well, why are you in such a state?
I'm not in a state. I don't know what you mean.
You've done something dreadful.
No, don't look at me like that, Charles. I haven't. I
My
swear I
God, that
haven't.
car! You've done something to the car.
Oh.
Ruth was right. You did want to kill me. You've done something. What have you done?
Charles!
What have you done? Answer me. Hello? Yes, this is he. The bridge at the bottom of the hill. No, I'll come at once. Thank you.
Well, of all the filthy, low-down tricks. Ow! Ruth, stop! Ow! Ruth, you're hurting me! Ow!
I hope you will not consider this an intrusion, Mr. Goldemine.
Not at all. Please sit down, won't you?
Thank you.
Would you like some coffee or liqueur?
No, thank you. I had to go, Mr. Goldemine.
Yes.
I felt a tremendous urge, like a rushing wind, and so I hopped on my bike, and here I am.
That was very kind of you.
Oh, Mr. Goldemine,
Yes.
I feel remarkable of the whole affair.
Please don't.
I can't help it. Oh, I got got into a huff the other day with your late wife, and I rode all the way home in a fit of anger, and I've regretted it ever since. Please let me go on. Mine is the shame. Mine is the blame. Oh, I shall never forgive myself had I not been so impetuous, had I listened to the cool voice of reason. So much might have been averted.
You told my first wife that you were unable to help her, but you were honest with her. I see no reason for you to reproach yourself.
But I threw up the sponge. And if I'm in a crisis, I threw up the sponge instead of throwing down the gauntlet.
Whatever you threw, Madame McCarthy, I fear there's nothing whatever to be done. It seems that the circumstances are a little bit too strong for all of us.
I cannot allow myself to admit defeat so easily. It's all gall and wormwood to me. I could at least have concentrated, made an effort.
Never mind.
No, but I do mind. I cannot help it. I mind with every fiber of my being. I've been thinking very carefully, and also I've been reading up a great deal over these past few dreadful days. I gather we're alone.
My first wife is not with us. She's lying down. The funeral exhausted her. I imagine my second wife is with her, but I have no way of knowing for certain.
And you remarked no difference in the texture of your first wife since the accident?
No, not really. Well, she's a bit under the weather, a trifle low-spirited, but that's all.
Yeah, well, that washes that out.
I'm afraid I don't understand.
Just a little theory I had. In the late 19th century, it was a pretty widespread belief that if a ghost had anything to do with the death of a human being, they disintegrated automatically.
And how do you know that Elvira was in any way responsible for Ruth's death?
Elvira, such a pretty name. It has a definite lilt to it. Oh, Elvira. Elvira.
You haven't answered my question. How do you know?
It came to me last night, Mr. Colquhoun. It came to me in a blinding flash. I had just finished my Ovaltine and turned out the lights when I suddenly sat up in bed with a loud cry. Great Scott! I said, I've got it. And at that, I began to put two and two together. And at 3 in the morning, with my brain fairly seething, I went to work on my crystal. But it was unsatisfactory. Cloudy, you know.
I'd be very much obliged if you would keep any theories you have concerning my wife's death to yourself, Madame McCarthy.
Oh, but my one desire is to help you, Mr. Colquhoun. I feel been dreadfully remiss over the whole affair. Not only remiss, but untimely.
I'm afraid there's nothing whatever to be done.
Oh, but there is! There is! I have a formula here. I found it. I copied it out of Edmondson's Witchcraft and its byways.
What the hell are you talking about?
Pluck up your heart, Mr. Colquhoun. All is not lost.
Now look here, Madame McCarthy.
You're still anxious to dematerialize your first wife, I suppose?
Of course I am. I'm perfectly furious with her.
But
well, she's been a little upset for the last few days. And apart from me being angry with her, which she always hated even when she was alive, my second wife has hardly left her side a moment. So you can see that she's been having a bad time with one thing and another.
Your delicacy of feeling does you credit, Mr. Colquhoun. But if you will forgive my bluntness, you're a damn fool!
You're at liberty to believe whatever you wish.
You don't get it on your high horse. There's no sense in that, is there? I have a formula here that I think will get rid of her without hurting her feelings in the least. It's extremely simple. It only requires complete concentration from you and a minor trance from me. I may even be able to do it without lying down.
Honestly, I would rather...
Charles!
What on earth's the matter?
What is she doing here?
She came to offer me her condolences.
Oh, well, they should have been congratulations.
Elvira, don't say things like that. It's in the worst possible taste. Hey, Madame McCarthy, allow me to introduce my first wife, Elvira.
How do you do?
What does she want, Charles? Send her away.
In what part of the room is she at the moment?
She's moving around rather rapidly. I'll tell you when and where she settles.
She's the one who got me here in the first place, isn't she?
Yes.
Well, tell her to get me away again as soon as possible. I can't stand this house another minute.
Honestly, Elvira, I'm surprised at you.
Oh, I don't care how surprised you are. I want to go home. I'm sick of this whole thing.
There's no sense of being childish.
I'm not being childish. I mean it.
Very interesting. I smell ectoplasm most strongly.
What a disgusting thing to say.
Where's she at now?
Here, close to me.
Oh, are you happy, my dear?
Tell the silly old bitch to mind her own business.
Was the journey difficult? Are you weary?
She's dirty.
Madam.
Oh, this is wonderful! Absolutely wonderful!
Oh, God's sakes, get rid of her, Charles. I have to talk to you.
Madam McCarthy.
Just a moment. I've almost made contact. I can sense the vibrations. Oh, this is marvelous, magnificent.
Go ahead, Elvira. Give her, don't be a spoilsport. Give her a little encouragement.
If you promise to get her into the other room.
All right.
Yes! Again! Again!
Go ahead.
This is first rate. Absolutely first rate. Absolutely stunning!
I'm so glad you're pleased.
Oh, please, Charles, get rid of her. Ruth will be in a minute.
Just a minute. Madam McCarthy, would you find it in the worst possible taste if I asked you to go into the dining room for just a moment? My first wife, she'd like to speak to me alone.
Must I? It's so lovely actually being in the same room with her.
It's only for a few minutes, I promise. She'll be here when you come back.
If you insist, grab my bag, my notes on the settee.
Oh, here you are.
Oh, darling, a little darling. Bah!
How good is she really?
I don't know.
Do you really think she can get me back again?
My dear child,
Don't call me your dear child. It's smug and supercilious.
there's no reason to be rude.
The whole thing's been a failure. A miserable, dreary failure. Not what I hoped I'd started out with.
Well, you shouldn't expect much sympathy from me. I know it was your highest hope was to murder me.
Well, don't put it like that. It sounds beastly.
It is beastly. It's one of the beastliest things I ever heard.
You know, there was a time when you would have welcomed the idea of being with me forever and ever.
Your behavior has shocked me. Never knew you were so unscrupulous.
Oh, Charles.
Stop crying.
No, they're only ghost tears. They don't mean anything, but they're very painful.
You brought this all on yourself, you know.
Oh, that's right. Rub it in. Anyhow, it was only because I loved you. The silliest thing I ever did in my whole life was to love you. You were always unworthy of me.
That remark is perilously near impertinence, Elvira.
I sat there on the other side longing for you day after day. I did, really. All through your affair with that brassy-looking woman in the south of France, I went on loving you and thinking truly of you. And then you married Ruth. And even then, I forgave you and tried to understand because all the time I really believed that you loved me best. That's why I put myself down for a return visit and had to fill in all those forms and wait about in drafty passages for hours. If only you had died before you met Ruth, everything might have been all right. She's absolutely ruined you. I wasn't in the house a day before I realized that, and your books aren't as quarter good as they used to be either.
That's entirely untrue. Ruth has helped me and encouraged me with my work, which is a damn sight more than you ever did.
That's probably what's wrong with them.
All you ever wanted to do is go to parties and enjoy yourself.
Well, why shouldn't I have fun? I died young, didn't I?
You needn't have died at all. You weren't idiotic enough to go out on the river with Guy Henderson and get soaked to the skin.
So we're back at Guy Henderson again, are we?
You behaved abominably over Guy Henderson, and there's no pretending you didn't.
Guy adored me. And anyhow, he was very attractive.
You told me distinctly that he didn't attract you in the least.
You would have gone through the roof if I told you that he did.
Did you have an affair with Guy Henderson?
I would rather not discuss that if you don't mind.
Answer me, did you or didn't you?
Of course I didn't.
Let him kiss you, didn't you?
Well, how could I stop him? He was bigger than I was. Well, of course I did. You're always making a scene over nothing at all.
Nothing at all?
You never loved me a bit, really. It was only your beastly vanity.
You honestly believe that it was vanity that upset me when you went out on the punch with Guy Henderson?
It was not a punch! It was a little launch.
I don't care if it was a three-masted schooner. You had no right to go.
You seem to forget why I went. You seem to forget that you had been making sheep's eyes at that overblown harridan with the false pearls.
A woman in Cynthia Chevrolet's position would hardly wear false
They
pearls.
were practically all she was wearing.
I'm grieved to see your sojourn in the 7 years in the echoing vaults of eternity haven't improved your native in vulgarity.
That was the remark of a pompous ass.
There's nothing to be continued by continuing this discussion.
You always used to say that when you were thoroughly worsted.
After all of the time, these marriage years, it pains me to see that they were nothing but a mockery.
You invite mockery, Charles. It's something to do with your personality, I think. A certain seedy grandeur.
Now look here,
You know, you
Elvira.
never suspected it, but I laughed at you steadily from the altar to the grave, all through your ridiculous petty jealousies, all your fussings and fumings.
You were feckless and irrational and morally unstable. I realized that before we left Budley Salterton.
No one but a monumental bore would have thought of having a honeymoon at Budley Salterton.
What's wrong with Budley Salterton?
I was an eager young bride, Charles. I wanted glamour and music and romance. All I got was potted palms, 7 hours a day on a damp golf course, and a 3-piece orchestra playing Merry England.
It's a pity you didn't tell me so at the time.
I did, but you wouldn't listen. That's why I went to the moors that day with Captain Bracegirdle. I was desperate.
You told me distinctly that you went to visit your aunt at Exmont.
It was the moors.
With Captain Bracegirdle?
With Captain Bracegirdle.
Oh, Elvira, how could you? What a fool I was, what a blind fool. Did he make love to you?
Of course.
Oh, dear.
Only very discreetly. He was in the cavalry, you know.
All I can say is that I'm well rid of you.
Unfortunately, you're not.
Yes, I am. You're dead, Bruce dead. I shall sell the house, lock, stock, and barrel, and go away.
I shall follow you.
I shall go to South America. You'll always hated that. You were such a bad traveler.
That can't be helped. I shall have to follow you. You called me back.
I did not call you back.
Well, somebody did, and it's hardly likely to have been Ruth.
Well, it was the furthest thing from my mind.
You were talking about me before dinner that evening.
I might as well have been talking about Joan of Arc, but that didn't mean I wanted her to come live with me.
As a matter of fact, she is rather fun.
Stick to the point.
When I think of what might have happened if I had succeeded in getting you to the other world after all, it makes me shudder. It does, honestly. There would have been nothing but bickering and squabbling forever and ever. I swear I'll be better off with Ruth. At least she'll find her own set and not get in my way.
So I get in your way, do I?
Only because I was idiotic enough to imagine that you loved me, and I sort of felt sorry for you.
Sick of all these insults. Please go away.
Oh, nothing would please me better. I've always believed in cutting my losses. That's why I died!
Of all the brazen sophistry!
Oh, call that old girl in again. Send her to work. I won't tolerate this any longer. I want to go home.
For heaven's sake, don't snivel.
Call her in. She's got to get me out of this.
Madam!
Oh.
Is the darling still here?
Yes.
Where? Tell me where.
By the piano.
Oh. Charles, stop her fawning on me or I shall break something.
Madam McCarty, we are both in agreement that she must go home immediately.
Oh,
Wherever she came from.
don't you think she might want to stay a few days longer? Just while I try to get things a little bit more organized.
No, I want to go now.
I could come and be with her. I could bring my crystal.
Oh, God forbid.
We are in both of agreement. She must go home just as soon as possible. So straighten every nerve, break every fiber. You said something about a formula. What is it?
Well, if you insist.
I most emphatically do
No,
insist.
Charles!
Shut up.
I can't guarantee anything, you know. I'll do my best, but it may not work.
You said something about a formula.
It's a little verse, really. It fell into disuse after the 17th century. I shall need some pepper and salt.
There's some pepper and salt in the dining room. I'll get it.
We ought to have some shepherd's wort or frog or two, but I think I could manage without it. You won't be frightened, will you, my dear? It's absolutely painless.
Here you are.
Ah, yes. Put it on the table there. Now let me see. Sprinkle it, will you? Oh, just a saucepan. Right there in the middle.
All right.
Oh, this is going to be a flop. I can tell you that here and now.
Now we ought to have some of those snapdragons out of the bars. Be a good chap.
You know, Merlin used to do all this sort of thing at parties and bought us all stiff with it.
Oh, thank you. And now the gramophone. You know, in the old days they used a zither or reed pipes. I think we ought to have the same record as before.
Whatever you wish.
I got it.
If only Mr. Irmsworth of the Psychical Research could see this, he'd have a fit. He really would. Now, don't play it yet, my dear. Sit down, Mr. Conley. Rest your hands downward on the table. Yes, now I shall start. Turn out the lights, yes. Oh, woof, I forgot. One triangle, one half circle, and a little dot. There!
This is a complete waste of time. She's a fake.
I mean, she's doing her best she can.
I'm as eager for her to succeed as you are, darling. Make no mistake about that. But I lay you 10 to 1. It's a dead failure.
Now, if you would be so kind as to ask your wife to lie down on the sofa.
Go ahead, Elvira.
This is sheer nonsense. Don't blame me if I get the giggles.
Concentrate. Think of nothing.
Quite right. Quite right, my dear. Now, hands by your side. Legs extended. Breathe steadily. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Is she comfortable?
Are you comfortable, Elvira?
No!
She's quite comfortable.
Now then, Mr. Conley, you must pay no attention to me. I might have to go into a trance. I shall start the music.
went wrong, and the whole day long I feel.
Achoo!
Oh dear, it's the pepper.
Ghostly spectra, gular thing, nevermore be thou convene. Shepherd's walt in holy light, banish thee into the night.
What a disagreeable little verse.
Be quiet, Elvira.
Concentrate, Mr. Conley. Is there anyone there? Is there anyone there? 1 rap for yes, 2 raps for no. Is there anyone there? Is that you, Daphne? Oh, I'm sorry to bother you, my dear, but Mrs. Condamine wishes to return. Oh, behave yourself, Daphne. Now, did you hear what I said? Well, are you going to help us? Oh, God, Mr. Condamine, he's trying to break away!
What on earth? Madam McCarthy! Madam McCarthy, you're right! Wake up!
Oh, she's
Are
in
you
one of her
hurt?
damned trances again, and I'm here as much as I ever was.
Madam McCarthy!
Oh, leave
Wake
her
up!
alone. She's having the whale of a time.
Madam McCarthy, wake
Straight to
up!
the bloody Daphne!
What happened?
Nothing happened.
No, something happened.
But you fell over, that's what happened.
Is she still here?
Of course she is.
Oh, something must have gone wrong.
Oh, tell her to do it properly, Charles. I'm sick of being messed about like this.
Oh, she's doing her best.
Something happened. I sensed it. I sensed it in my trance. I felt it. It shivered right through me.
Once and for all, Charles, what the hell does this mean? clock has always irritated me. It strikes far too slowly.
It was a wedding present from Uncle Walter.
Who's Uncle Walter?
Elvira's.
Well, all I can say is that he might have chosen something a bit more decorative.
If that really were all you could say, Ruth, I'm sure it would come as a great comfort to us all.
You can be as rude as you like, Elvira. I don't mind a bit. As a matter of fact, I'd be extremely surprised if you weren't.
Why?
The reply to that really is too obvious.
You two won't stop bickering for 1 minute.
This has quite definitely been one of the most frustrating nights of my entire life.
The reply to that is pretty obvious, too.
I'm sure I don't know what you mean.
Skip it.
Now, look here, Elvira. If you and I have got to live together in this house indefinitely, and it looks unpleasantly likely, we've got to come to some sort of an arrangement.
Well, what sort of an arrangement?
Well, you're definitely not going to stay here indefinitely.
Well, you then, we shall have to be with you.
I don't see why. Why don't you take up a cottage somewhere?
You called us back.
I have explained till I'm blue in the face that I've done nothing of the sort.
Madame Arcady said you did.
Madame Arcadley's a muddly no fool.
I could have told you that from the start.
I think you're behaving very shabbily, Charles.
I don't see what I've done.
We all agree that as Elvira and I are dead, it would be both right and proper for us to dematerialize again as soon as possible. That I admit. We have allowed ourselves to be subjected to the most humiliating hocus pocus for hours and hours without complaining.
Without complaining?
We have stood up, we have lain down, we've concentrated, we've sat interminably while this tiresome old woman recited extremely unflattering verses at us. We have endured 5 seances. We've watched her fling herself in and out of trances till we're dizzy. And at the end of it all, we find ourselves exactly where we were at the beginning.
It's not my fault.
Be that as it may, the least you could do would be to admit failure gracefully and make the best of it. Your matters of course to a degree.
I'm just as tired as you are. I've had to do all the damn table tapping, remember?
If she can't get us back, then she can't. And that's that. We shall have to think of something else.
Anything else is unthinkable.
Well, there's gratitude for you.
Gratitude?
Yes. For all the years that we've both devoted to you, you ought to be ashamed.
Well, what about all the years I devoted to you?
Nonsense! We waited on you hand and foot, haven't we, Ruth? You're exceedingly selfish and always were.
And I failed to see why you were so anxious to get back to me.
You called us back, and you have done nothing but try and get rid of us ever since, hasn't he, Elvira?
He certainly has.
And now, owing to your idiotic inefficiency, we find ourselves in the most mortifying position. We're neither fish, nor flesh, nor fowl, nor whatever it is.
Good red herring.
Oh, it can't be.
Well, why don't you try to go back? Go back on your own.
We can't, and you know perfectly well we can.
Isn't there anybody on the other side who can help?
How am I supposed to know? I've only been there a few days. Ask Elvira.
I've already told you it's no good. If we got Cagliostro, Mesmer, Merlin, Gilles de Rais, and the Black Douglas in a row, they couldn't do a thing. The impetus has got to come from here. Perhaps Charles doesn't want us to go quite enough.
Oh, I most certainly do.
He must have a very weak will, then. I always suspected it.
Oh, there's no use arguing anymore. Wake up, Madame Arcady.
Oh, not another seance.
Please wake up, Madame Arcady.
Shake her.
It might upset her.
I don't care if it kills her.
Please wake up, Madame Arcady!
What time is it?
It's 5:10.
What time did they go off?
Over an hour ago.
Curious. Curious. I must mark that down in my diary. Are the girls still here?
Of course they are.
How disappointing.
Do you have any suggestions?
Chin up! Never give in! That's my motto!
Oh, this schoolgirl phraseology is driving me mad.
Now then.
Now then what?
What do you say? We have another seance! Really put our shoulder into it this time. Make it a real rouser.
For God's sake, not another seance.
I bet I could materialize a trumpet this time if I tried hard enough. I feel fit as a fiddle after my rest.
I don't care if she materializes a whole symphony orchestra. I implore you to not allow another seance.
Don't you think, Madame Arcady, we've had enough seances? After all, they haven't achieved much, have they?
Rome wasn't built in a day.
I know, but it wasn't, but...
Chin up, away with the melancholy.
I honestly think that we should discuss the situation a little.
Oh, good idea. Excellent. And while we do that, I'm going to have another one of these cucumber sandwiches. I'm hungry as a hunter.
Would you like some more beer?
Better not.
I think I'll have a whiskey.
Make it a double. Enjoy yourself.
One day I intend to give myself the pleasure of telling Madame Arcadi exactly what I think of her.
She's doing her best, you know.
Are the girls growing despondent?
I'm afraid they are, rather.
Oh, we'll win through yet. Don't be downhearted.
If we're not careful, she'll materialize a hockey team. Oh.
Now then, with the discussion, Mr. Condamine, fire away.
My wives and I have discussed it, and they are absolutely convinced that I have somehow or another called him back.
Very natural.
And I am convinced I did not.
Mr. Condamine, love is a strong psychic force. It has been known to perform untold miracles. A true love call can encompass the universe.
And I'm sure it can, but I must tell you that although my affection for Ruth and Elvira is of the warmest, it does not fall under the heading which you described.
I should just think not, indeed.
I don't think you know how strong you are, Mr. Condamine.
I did not call them back, either consciously or subconsciously.
But Mr. Condamine...
That's my final word on the subject.
Well, neither of them could have appeared the other night unless there was someone, a strong psychic subject who wished for them here.
Well, it wasn't me.
Perhaps it was Dr. Bradman. Oh, I never knew he cared.
Are you sure? I mean, are you really sure?
Absolutely positive.
Great Scott! I've been barking up the wrong tree.
What do you mean?
The Sudbury case.
I don't know what you're talking about.
There's no reason why you would. It was before your time.
What's a Sudbury case? I wish you would explain.
It was the case that made me famous, Mr. Condamine. It was described in theatrical parlance as my first smash hit. I received letters from all over the world, even India.
Well, what did you do?
I dematerialized the old lady Sudbury after she lay entrenched in the family chapel for over 17 years.
How? How? Can you tell me how?
Chance, a fluke.
What? You remember how?
Oh, never mind that. We must think. Think, Mr. Condamine. Who was here the other night at the seance?
Ruth, myself, the Bradmans, and you.
Yes, but to be sure, the Bradmans weren't here the other night, were they?
No.
No! There's my crystal. No damn thing gives me the pip. Cloudy again. Oh, I see. I'm beginning to understand.
Wished I was. What can you see?
A bandage. A white bandage. Hold on to a white bandage.
I haven't got a white bandage.
She really is too good, you know. She ought to be in a circus.
Be you McCorcrally, answer me! You behind the panel above the stairs, answer me! Be you beneath the eaves, waking or sleeping, answer me! Yeah, that ought to do it. Or I'm a Dutchman.
Do what?
Just a moment.
Oh, for God's sake, don't let her throw any more of that garlic about. It nearly made me sick to my stomach.
Would you like a gramophone on? Are the lights out or anything?
No, it's near. It's very near.
Oh, if it's a ghost, I shall scream.
If it's someone we know, I shall feel so silly.
What do you mean, sir?
No! The bandage! The white bandage!
Sorry, sir. I could have sworn I heard the bell. Or somebody calling. I was asleep. I don't rightly know which it was.
Come here, child.
Oh.
Go ahead. Do as Madame Arcadi says.
Whom do you see in this room, child?
Oh, dear.
Answer me.
You, madam.
Still on.
The master.
Anyone else?
Oh, no, madam.
Look again.
I don't understand, sir.
Don't beat about the bush, child.
You
Look
concentrate,
again.
Elvira, and be still.
I can't.
Do you see anyone else now?
Oh, no, madam.
She's lying.
Oh, madam.
They always do.
Okay.
Where are they now?
By the fireplace.
Oh, probably not clearly enough.
Let me count. I haven't done nothing nor seen nobody. Let me go back to bed.
Give her a sandwich.
I don't want a sandwich. I want to go back to bed.
Hey, what's wrong with you, my dear? There's nothing wrong with a good, healthy girl like you not wanting a sandwich. It's nonsense. Sit down, child.
Please, stop.
It's all right. Please sit down. Just do what she wants.
I haven't done nothing wrong.
Nobody said you. It's all right.
If she's been the cause of all this unpleasantness, I will give her a week's notice tomorrow.
You may not be here tomorrow.
Look here, Rita. Go!
I'm not with her. She bought me.
Just a little bit.
Look at it. It's my finger. Have you ever seen such a long finger? Look, it is on the left. Now it's on the right. Backwards and forwards. Tick tock, tick tock, tick
Mouse ran
tock.
up the clock.
Oh, be quiet. You'll ruin everything.
Oh, she's off all right.
Off?
Yes, she's a natural, just like the submarine case. It really is the most amusing coincidence. Please ask your wives to stand together.
Where?
Over there by you.
Like Elvira, Ruth.
I resent being ordered about like this.
I don't like this. I don't like any of it. I feel peculiar.
I'm sorry, but I must insist.
It serves you right if we flatly refuse to do anything at all.
All right. Now, are you sorry for being so mischievous, Edie?
Oh, yes, madam.
And you know what to do now, don't you?
Oh, yes, madam.
Charles! I believe it's going to work! Whatever it is! Tell her to stop! There's something I want to say before I go! Oh, wait a minute!
It's too late now.
Lights!
Don't think you're getting rid of us quite so easily, my dear. You may not be able to see us, but we shall be here all right.
I went for a hunt with her. You were not a good man. I must say, I should like to say good night.
Turn on the lights.
That's enough singing, Edith! Thank you.
You sure you should wake her up before she calls them back again?
Wake up, child!
Good heavens! Where am I?
It's all right. It's all right. You're down here. I called you.
What? It's morning.
Yes, I know it is.
But I was just in bed. How did I get down here?
I rang the bell and you answered it, didn't I, Madam McCarthy?
Is that a drop off? Do you need us my concussion again? Oh,
It's
dear.
all right. It's all right. Thank you, all your help. Thank you very much indeed.
Oh, sir, what happened before? Oh, sir!
What does she mean by that?
Golly, what a night! I'm dead in my tracks.
Would you like to stay? There's an extra room, you know.
No. Each to his own nest. I shall cycle home. It's only 7 miles.
Oh, well, thank you, Madam McCarthy. I deeply appreciate it. I don't know how you usually do this, so whatever way you want to send in your account, it'd be greatly appreciated.
Oh, I never dreamed of it, Mr. Condamine.
Yes, but with all the trances and everything,
I enjoy them, Mr. Condamine. I really do since I was a child.
well, perhaps you'll lunch with me one day soon.
Yes, I will be delighted after you've returned.
After I've returned?
Mr. Condamine, take yourself away from this place immediately.
Do you mean that they still are
There are
here?
both memories gay and grave in every corner. And also,
Also what?
there are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamed of, Mr. Condamine.
Do you mean that they...
Just go. Pack your traps and go.
All right, Madam McCarthy, I'll do as you say.
Well, this has been fascinating from first to last. Fascinating. Do you mind if I take one of those sandwiches to munch on my way home?
By all means.
No need to sing me out. Cheerio once more. Goodbye and happy hunting.
Ruth? Elvira? Are you there? Ruth? Elvira, I know damn well you're there. going away. Going a long ways away, so there's no point of you hanging about any longer. I'm going a long ways away, somewhere where I don't believe you'll be able to follow. In spite of what Elvira says, I don't believe spirits can travel over water. Is that quite clear, my darlings? In one of your more acid moments, Ruth, you said that I've been hag-ridden all my life. How right you were. But now I'm free. Not only of you and Mother and Mrs. Winthrop Llewellyn, Elvira too. I just want to take this farewell opportunity to tell you that I'm going to enjoy myself immensely. I thought so. It was very silly of you, Elvira, to think that I didn't know about you and Captain Bracegirdle. I did. What you didn't know is I was well attached to Paula Westlake at the time. I was reasonably faithful to you too, Ruth, but you were becoming increasingly domineering. And there's nothing more off-putting than that, is there?
Don't think you're getting rid of us quite so easily, my
Go
dear.
ahead. I'm sure I'll meet you again one day. But until I do, I'm going to enjoy myself like I've never enjoyed myself before. You can break up the house all you want. Keep your thoughts. Be kindly of me.